Go psycho with Elvira and win a party with mug root beer and me.
I love my mug.
I
love it. This summer, coming to a supermarket near you. There's going to be a great new high-C flavor with an outrageous fruit taste. And what are we going to call it? Ecto Cooler. High-C Ecto Cooler. Slimer's new fruit drink. You've been warned.
Humans, we've come for your freaky floats.
What's the magic word?
Well, blast your puny planet to smithereens.
It was trick or treat.
I was going to say that next. Yeah. Orange and vanilla. This will please the Alien Federation.
The Simpsons are back, haunting Burger King. Now in every Big Kids meal, you can get a Simpsons creepy classic. Each has a kooky, spooky scream. You can collect all 10 if you dare. Float sold separately.
Even after lying around for 3 years, today's Duracell batteries still have up to 90% of their life. There's a date that proves it. So you've got nothing to be afraid of. Today's Duracell, with 3-year storage.
Hey, I'm no numbskull, so call me at 1-900-909-2233, and you'll hear the funniest monster jokes like, what's a vampire's favorite sport? Basketball. Or the one about the ghoul who missed her mummy. You'll also find out how to get these scary street signs featuring my friends Dracula, Wolfman, and Frankenstein. It costs $2.45 for a 2-minute message, so ask your mom or dad if it's okay before you call 1-900-909-2233. I'm dying to make you laugh.
And the Headless Horseman raised his pumpkin hat.
Now at McDonald's, Halloween Happy Meal pails to hold your Halloween goodies. Each with a cookie cutter lid. One with each Happy Meal you buy.
And now a ghost story.
McDonald's has a monster of an idea. Happy Halloween certificates. A book of 10 is only $1. Your gang can turn them in for free dessert treats like cones and sample-sized sundaes at McDonald's. Each book also comes with a mail-in certificate for this free Roger Rabbit when you buy your video cassette of the smash hit and framed Roger Rabbit. McDonald's Happy Halloween certificates. A deal so good, it's eerie.
The Castle of the Chicken McNuggets.
What are you making?
Sauce. We're using my mummy's recipe.
Mummy,
This better be good.
It'll be great.
Does your daddy have a recipe?
Now you can get McDonald's.
Time to go down to the basement for some more hauntingly delicious Count Chocula cereal.
Don't look in the basement.
Those eyes are looking at me. Think I'll get some fruity Frankenberry from the cupboard.
Don't look in the cupboard.
Oh, those eyes, they move.
Now the spooky, delicious part of your complete breakfast is even spookier.
Now Chocula's eyes really move. So did Frankenberry's.
He is looking at you, kids.
Hallmark has the things to make Halloween a day of double takes. Scare up some friends with spooky problems. Teach your companions about when you drop cast a Hallmark spell and return for the worst for myths, for masks, for beans you'll first. With things from Hallmark, let's no bother. One Halloween take deserves another. Look where Hallmark products lurk. You'll find things most frightening. This new design can make your Halloween enlightening.
This Halloween, find fun somewhere new. Pillsbury Halloween cookies. With Linus's great pumpkin and chocolate ghosts. Just slice, bake, and eat before Halloween vanishes.
My heart to yours, Pillsbury.
going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer battery. It keeps going.
Mike!
What?
There's something under the bed. I heard something.
There's nothing under the bed.
I heard something.
See, look, it's just Fluffy. He got scared by a dumb cat.
I wasn't scared.
I told you there was nothing under the bed.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Scene Snobs podcast. I am, of course, your host, Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob, and I am, so overjoyed to be here today because it is the start of year 2 of the SneakySnobs.com channel. It all started with this show, October 6th of 2019. We had our 1-year anniversary last week, and now this is like the new season, really, and we're starting up again. And as always, I've been doing throughout the summer, and I'm just continued it because it's been so much fun. I have guest co-hosts come on, and one of my favorites is here today, and I wanted to give him a few seconds before he pops on because, he's a good-looking guy, and I can't have him showing me up when I'm on screen. But without further ado, Mr. Jarrod Debardlabon is here, and he is my guest co-host. Here we go. Jarrod! Oh my God, it's the Ace of Spade over here. What'd you have fall out of there? I love it. Oh, can we hear you? No, we can't hear you. Are you muted? Please tell me you're muted. Yes, you are. I got you.
Muted. I'm sorry. I was playing around with my new Halloween mask and my deck of playing cards because I wanted to learn cardistry over the summer. So,
well, it's October.
Here we are.
It's a good time to start, my friend.
Yes.
Well, thank you for being on the show again, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on. We always have great conversations, and tonight I know is going to be right on par with all of them.
I'm excited because I want to hear the opposite side of this feedback.
I know. I think you're going to make a lot of people mad tonight, and I am very much looking forward to that. Hey, Chris Sales. Hi, Mick. Congrats on season 2. Thank you, Chris, and thank you for being a great supporter. I really appreciate that. You've been awesome, and we're so lucky to have you watching. Thank you again. But now Jarrod is going to have to piss you off because he's going to piss everybody off because Jarrod has been on somewhat of an odyssey this Halloween season. And Jarrod, I'm going to let you take it. I want you to tell us what you've been doing.
So here's the thing. Halloween is my absolute favorite holiday of every year. There is not a year that goes by that I do not dress up for Halloween. However, in doing that, I was thinking about what my costume was going to be this year, and I realized I have never done a scary monster type of anything for Halloween. No, well, I did do a killer clown, but I've never done Dracula, werewolf, zombies, blood, and I do the whole makeup thing. And it got me to thinking, like, if Halloween is my favorite, why have I never done horror movies? And my first thought was, I hate horror movies. And therein lied my problem. I had to figure out what it is that I do not like about horror movies. So I put a question out to some friends of mine, Mick included, to give me the best horror movies of the last decade. And the reason I stuck to the last decade is because I remember in the 80s, horror movies were a lot more thrilling and they played with your mind a lot more. So Chucky, rephrase, Child's Play, Hellraiser, and The Nightmare on Elm Street, before Freddy got funny, were really terrifying to me. And then as I grew and I aged and I got into my real cinephile motif, I stopped liking horror movies. And I could not figure out why. So the challenge was, Give me the best, the top of the top, the creme de la creme of horror movies. And I came and it came down to 57 horror movies that I was going to watch between September 29th and the end of October. I've made it through 17 of them. And so far, I've only been scared once, and I have not been impressed. So, what I need is to figure out what is it about horror movies that I did not like. And I sent over what I think it is. And Mick, I want you to jump in here. What is the fascination of a horror movie to you?
All right, that's a great question. The fascination of a horror movie, I think there's a lot of nostalgia behind it, of course. They're always taboo in a way. Like there's, you're not supposed to watch this. And it just made every kid want to watch it more. Okay. And then as you watch it, and when you're a kid, they're terrifying. Certain ones, of course, not everything, but you see Freddy Krueger, he's terrifying. So for me, growing up in that way where like I kept reaching for those, like, those movies that I was told never to watch. And then I just got into them and grew with them. And they scared me as a kid. But then as I grew older, they became just more fun. They became more of a release than everything else. They're different. Horror movies are built in the taboo. They're built in the unexpected. You don't know what you're going to get.
Let me ask you this then, because I thought about that, and I came back to Rambo as and I can't remember if it was Rambo 1 or 2, but that was also rated R, and I wasn't allowed to see it.
Well, I mean that either, but if you show me the trailer for like Friday the 13th Part 6, and you show me the trailer for Rambo, both look fun, but one's a little bit darker, and one's a little bit more. Okay. It's like if you walk in front of a haunted house, it's like I really want to go in there. I know I shouldn't, but I really want to. I think that's what it comes down to. Is it's like Rambo. You're just watching Rambo. Horror movies, I feel like for me, you're experiencing horror movies. You don't feel like you're going. You watch Saving Private Ryan, you watch Rambo, you don't feel like you're going to war. You feel like you're cheering on the good guy. In a drama, you feel like you're going on a whirlwind of emotions. In a comedy, you're going on. It's not a thrill ride. It's just you're not experiencing it. You're watching it, and your emotions are being played with accordingly. Now, with horror is the same way, but you have to. It's like there's no problem with watching horror. There's no problem watching comedy, I should say, because you're going to laugh. That's what the expectation is. There's no, but when it's over, you're not going to laugh while you're sleeping. But if you watch,
unless it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, you can always laugh about the jokes, but I mean, what I mean is you're not going to wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat laughing at that thing you saw.
Okay.
You could wake up terrified.
And I will admit, so the reason Child's Play came up first is Child's Play came out in like 80. I don't remember when the original one came out, but I remember Child's Play 2 came out in 92, right?
Yep.
And I remember I had a My Buddy doll during the first Child's Play. And I saw Chucky move, and I chucked Chucky behind the couch, or My Buddy behind the couch. And I swear to you, I never saw that doll again.
Yeah, because your mother had to throw it away because you're leaving your toys on the floor.
But it always freaked me out. I was like, okay, that doll was murderous. Where's mine? And I can't find him anymore. That's where I was like, okay, I'm terrified.
He was probably under your bed. But that was a movie, like, when we were kids, we're around the same age. Child's Play was terrifying. It played, now it's just playing, whereas everything else, like Freddy was one that was like kind of like really reached into your soul and pulled it, was pulling out the fear because it gets you in your dreams. Now you can't even go to sleep.
Go to sleep.
No. But as kids, so did Chucky, because try and get rid of all of your toys. You weren't able to do it.
I don't know if you remember, but Toy Soldiers was also in the similar vein, where all the action figures came to life and started going on a murderous rampage.
Oh,
Same
you
thing
mean
for
Robin Williams?
Say again?
Toys with Robin Williams?
Was it Toys or Toy Soldiers?
Toy Soldiers was the one with Sean Astin where the school gets taken over and he's like basically John McClane.
Okay, it was Toys.
That's a good one though. If you haven't seen Toy Soldiers, check it out. It's so fun. But so like when it comes to horror though, it's devastating, and Chris can attest to this because Chris Sales just actually commented, well, see you next week. Just kidding. I'm interested. I'm glad you're interested, but I'm interested too. I'm interested to know why, Jarrod. Why do you hate all the fun things?
I don't. I like the fun things. And I think what my biggest problem was when I watch horror movies, I don't get scared. I don't get sucked into the emotion of the rest of the movie. And they became a lot more, as I got older, they just became more gore fest, and gore never scared me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I didn't like about the gore is I am always fascinated by medical procedures. So I watched, side note, when I was about 12 years old, I had the head of a nail go up the side of my leg, down to the white meat.
Oof.
Blood gushing everywhere. I was the calmest thing you'd ever seen. To the point where I asked the doctors to sit up in the hospital and watch them sew up my leg. As I looked over in the corner and I saw my mom woozy and about to pass out. It was amazing to me just to see like all the fleshy bits and pulsing bits inside me. So I was like, it's interesting. But as a movie, it was never scared me. It never resonated. Oh, let me just cut up every. And I think it was also because I was a kid of the 80s, and the number one rule of the kid of the 80s is you don't go home until you're bleeding, and that's the only time. It's either you're bleeding or the streetlights came on. So you had nothing else to do. So blood never scared me. So I was thinking about that part, and I was like, okay, well, if it's not the blood that's not scary, it's not, and I don't get drawn into the tension, what else am I scared of? And it wasn't, I never got scared of strangers because everybody in my neighborhood knew everybody, and everybody knew my grandparents. So everybody would always, hey, that's that Debardlabon boy. Who is that?
Well, for one, I get what you're saying about childhood, and actually Chris has a good point. For me as a kid, I was a visual representation of what I was told to be afraid or wary of. Don't talk to strangers, don't pick up hitchhikers, don't pet loose dogs, don't swim too deep, don't walk by yourself, don't stay out of the dark. Yeah, I agree. And I think, Jarrod, you're hitting it with what you were saying, like there are things that we're not afraid of growing up. Because depending on where you grew up and how it was. And I agree with you, being out as much as we were as kids and having to be out there. And yeah, don't come home until,
because it meant the end of fun.
True, and we were kids that didn't want to go home until the streetlights came on because we thought if we go home, we're gonna get stuck doing something. So we went out, and but I think I grew up in a Catholic household, so demons, you were fearful of demons. You were, because there was something in the back of everybody's mind that was like hell exists, blah blah blah, and like they were sticking it in your head, and it seems more realistic than anything else. But I mean, now I'm not that way, and I think that's a testament to a lot of people. Like, The Exorcist isn't as scary as it once was because people have moved away from religion in a big way. In generation.
Well, let me ask you this, because I am religious, and religion is more terrifying now than it ever was when I was a kid.
I agree, but I just to interject for a second, like for me, religion's more terrifying now. Like as a kid, it was a form of keeping you in check. Now it's a form of, it's almost like when I hear people talk about religion and the things they talk about, especially in politics and in the news and such, I'm more fearful of like this wave of almost like cult-like atmosphere.
Zealots.
Yeah. And that's a fearful way. Like even when I watch that today, I'm like, there are people out there who are like this.
True. And when I what was it? Last week. Yeah, last week. When I was watching Red State. Red State on paper had the premise to be absolutely terrifying. And for anybody who hasn't watched it, it's about a cult of Christians who try and sacrifice people that don't believe in the Bible the way they believe in the Bible. On paper, it had great premise. It was just the execution towards the middle and the end of the movie that kind of threw me off. That just didn't suck me all the way in. I don't know if you remember, but sidetrack back note. I don't know if you remember this a couple years ago. People were doing bath salts, and there was a news story where a guy in California was eating another man's face naked under a bridge, and the police had to kind of shoot the guy and kill him to get him to stop. And when I saw that, my mind instantly went to demonic possession. Because I've been around drug dealers and people on drugs, and the human mind doesn't just come up with, let me attack and eat this person on a regular basis, to the point that you snarl at police officers. So I am very attuned to demons when they come into the human realm. And those are the things that terrify me. So when people get into situations that are absolutely inescapable, that's when I'm terrified. And I thought about the movies that really did terrify me. Wreck or Quarantine, English language or Spanish language versions, whichever one. That movie terrified me to no end, because you were trapped somewhere without knowledge of what was going on. So I took that piece, and I wanted to understand where else I could go in my horror field to figure out what else is it that's going to scare me. And you brought up the exorcism, and I wanted your opinion on what you thought about the Exorcism of Emily Rose, Annabelle, and it was the other one that scared me.
Well, I will say this. Like, okay, so you have the Exorcism of Emily Rose. That, if I remember correctly, that was the one where he was on trial. The priest was on trial because she died during the exorcism.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean the Exorcist movies don't. The Exorcist, the Exorcism movies, they don't scare me as much. Again, it's because I don't have that belief structure anymore. Not that I don't believe in anything, but that particular Catholic belief structure, I just don't hold to it. So, for me, like movies that really get to me, are like movies where people are trapped. The Collector was one. The Collector really like got me down to my core. The Collection was a good movie. I liked it a lot, but like The Collector was like Collector is a very cool little thriller where I don't know if you've never have you seen it?
I've seen it, but it's been so long since I've watched it that I can't remember it.
Well, for anybody who doesn't know it, The Collector is basically this guy who's works for a locksmith company. He's also a thief, so he goes back to break into the house where he just put locks on the door, and he goes in and he finds the family trapped there in elaborate saw-like traps, and it's because there is a serial killer who sets traps throughout the entire house as a sort of a sadistic game. So now it's like a cat and mouse game where this burglar, if you will, or just thief in general, is kind of going around the house trying to save the family and stop the killer without being found. And it's very terrifying in the way they do it. And like just being the whole idea of like, because he's trapped in the house now, he can't just leave. He's got to. It's like a moral code. Like, I'm a thief, but I can't leave them here to be killed and tortured. There's kids involved, so something like that. So like, and they played the story really well. They continue his story into the second one, and the third one is being filmed now. So something like that gets me. Something like Sinister, which I think you said you weren't a big fan of.
No, I was not. I've felt, and what I felt in Sinister was that the scares were too forced. I saw a lot of it coming, and I don't need the camera to scare me. Mm-hmm. I need the camera to scare the characters on screen, because if they're scared, I'm scared. And if they don't convince me that they're scared, then I'm not invested.
That's really fair point, and I get that. But I think there are a fair amount of good, like, listen. Well, first, like with Chris, as Chris is saying, I agree with Jarrod. Isolating helplessness is by far the scariest to me. Cujo and The Thing, for example. Those are great examples, by the way.
Yes.
And then Mike Courtney says, interesting, I find the demonic possession movies absolutely terrifying. Which I get, and I get that. I'm not putting them down. Like for me, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, I thought would have been a really cool story if they focused more on the courtroom side of things, but not as a horror movie. I would have because I remember following that case, and I thought, yeah, maybe cutting back and forth between the exorcism like they did, but more with a focus on the court case, and maybe turn it more into a drama with some scary elements. I would have liked that more, I think.
What intrigued me most about her possession in general was how they portrayed her contrived voices. And then they, in the court case scene, then they tried to explain it away by Gregorian chants. And I was like, there's a way that's similar to the bath salts thing. There's a way to explain away demonic possession, because the Bond doesn't want to conjure up everything that makes it afraid. So it tries to rationalize the irrational. Sorry, that was a word there that was stuck.
It's just fun to watch you do it.
So I get into those, and they're absolutely fascinating. But again, like I said, I'm sensitive to spiritual awareness, so I'm very cautious of those movies in general, because I don't like being attacked by demons.
Yeah, and I get that. And listen, there's a lot of fun to it. Like, it's weird because if you think about it, and I want to get back to Chris's point in a second for the isolation horror, but and Mike has some good points here that I'm going to bring up in a second. But for me, demons, they don't scare me. Now, that does not mean I'm not intrigued by demon movies.
Mm-hmm.
I do like I liked Legion. A lot of people didn't like it, but I thought it could have been done way better. But I liked the I like the idea of it. I like the idea of the angels coming down, have demons working for him. God is sending them to kill this child, and Saint Michael is protecting. I like that. I like that vibe, and I think I feel like the exorcism movies get done a lot, and there's not a lot of places to go there. It's just kind of changing the setting. So, like Constantine, I thought does it great because there's a story there. Yeah, you're getting exorcisms, you're getting different things, but you're getting an overarching whole story to it. Now, I know you hate.
You know, I'm excited about this one. You brought up Constantine, and I want to talk about this one because my friend Jeanette Perry down in Georgia said that Constantine is a horror movie.
It is,
and I don't understand how it is a horror movie because I put it in the same vein as Spawn. It is based on a comic book with a comic book character and comic book scenarios. And the reason I cannot put it in the same vein as a horror movie is because the tone never gets into terrifying the characters. And maybe it's because Keanu is just so calm and collected through the movie as John Constantine actually is in the comic book. He's seen it all, he's done it all, he's made the deals, so he's not scared anymore. And I think that's what took me out of it for it being a horror movie. The main character is never scared in that movie.
And the thing is, I'm okay with that. But he is scared in a sense that he knows he's going to hell. His desperation is to not go to hell. Now, most Christians, that's their whole thing, is don't go to hell. They believe in hell. Now, John Constantine, I feel that fear more because he knows what hell is and he's put people there. So he's terrified of it. His whole journey, the exorcisms and the angels and the demons and everything else don't scare him because he deals with them every day. He's a detective of all of this weird crap. So it's a horror detective story. So, and now any good detective story, the detective is going to act as if. You never really see the detective get out of whack. He's not, maybe he's not always under control, but his sights are set on what he needs to get to, and that's that. And he just acts accordingly. Like, he's been in trouble before. This is just different trouble. So I get that from him. But now you add into Constantine, he's dying. He cannot go to heaven. It has already been remarked that you are not allowed in heaven. It's not happening. When your number is up and your days are numbered, you are coming to hell and you are going to suffer. And that's all he just wants out because he's been doing God's work for so long. And, that fear is covered up with anger because he's angry at the fact that he has to go. So I completely accept that. And I find that, like, if you're taking demon possession movies, and especially looking at them from a Christian's point of view, or any religious point of view at this point, because most religions do have some form of demon and or possession in there. And I don't want to say lore, but for the better part, for all religions, let's just say lore, or belief structure, to be respectful. So with that, you can say, I can't go to hell. We can all say it, like, I can't go to hell. This is devastating. Well, people still sin.
True.
So like that's what makes something like Constantine scary to me. Is because he shouldn't have to, but he's been damned to it. And now it's like it's a desperate it's a desperate losing search until the end when he finally does get pulled out. And what happens to him?
Then he gets
Satan removes the cancer.
He gets blessed by the devil anyway.
Yep, and which could have been done the entire time. And that's just going to make you even angrier.
Yes.
So why we needed more sequels to that movie. Let me pull up some of the comments real quick because backed up a little bit, and Mike has some good points I want to show them. Okay, says, though these days I am much more interested in psychological horror stuff. Jump scares are cheap to me now. I agree to that. We're going to get to that point in a second. Emily Rose was definitely an interesting take on exorcism type movie for sure. Totally get your point of view though. And a big same, bro. Thank you, sir. We are, just to kind of, since we're going to move on from Demon Possession in a sec, I want to hear what you have to say about this, and I do want to say, like, again, they have a place in horror.
Yes.
I think they always should have a place. Just because I don't find them particularly scary, I'll never say, like, no, those movies shouldn't exist anymore because religion is, not that it's going away, but the belief structure of religion is changing rapidly. We move more towards sciences now and things like that. So kind of takes away from the old folklores of demons and everything else. Not to take away from hell, not take away from heaven or anything like that, but the devil with the red horns and the pitchfork and such, it's like, that's a lore. This is never stated anywhere in the Bible.
True.
So, like, we have pinpointed our, certain looks and disguises for our demons, and writing about devil possession. It's kind of like we had this talk on our panel the other day about problematic horror films. Witches. Witches are considered problematic now because in reality, they were just murdered women in history for speaking out or being independent or anything else, or committing adultery. Like, it was like, all right, she's a witch. That's all you had to say, and then she died. Like they hanged them or they drowned them. So it becomes problematic in that sense. Now
I was actually talking to my wife about this one, and as we were talking about it, like my mind just went off on a completely different tangent. But the term black magic comes from not understanding what a different type of religion actually is. So those witches, for the Salem witch trials, just could have been non-Christian women who just believed in a different deity, thereby making them witches, thereby making a whole scenario blown out of proportion for no reason. Yeah. So I completely agree with you on that one, in that religion, depending on your religions, Christianity in general, because the Christian faith is the majority religion in the United States. Old time Christians are some of the most, and current day Christians are some of the most cynical people out there. And this is coming from me as a Christian. Like, Christians in general are the most cynical, judgmental group of people that we have out there that do not live by the word of the book that we're supposed to follow.
Yeah.
So that in itself is what makes religion so terrifying, is that we pick and choose the pieces that want to scare us.
But I think when it comes to horror movies and writing horror movies, I think that works because
it's easy.
But you should, and when you're trying to tell a new story that scares somebody, like, why not do stuff like that? Like, vampires were created as a way to basically explain the weird, explain the people in the night who were rapists, who were
cannibals.
There were some that had taste for blood, right?
Yes, and like Vlad the Impaler. I understand his story, but he was mythologized to make him scarier than he actually was.
Yeah. But even then, like that and so much more, because there was a duchess who would bathe in blood of her servants and stuff like that. So I forget her name.
I know who you're
and there
talking
was
about.
tons of other that helps create the vampire mythology. So with that, you have lots of stuff, like, and over the years we've created lots and lots and lots more to those lores. Like, again, Bram Stoker introduced crucifixes. He introduced what was it? Sunlight. Things like that. Like, those were the things, and like, again, those were Judeo-Christian things that would help purify evil. Light will always end darkness, and Jesus will always. Oh, Elizabeth Bathory. That's right, Chris. Thank you for pulling that up. Yeah, so Elizabeth Bathory was the one that would bathe in the blood of her.
It bathes in the blood of innocence.
Yeah, and I think it was because she thought it made her look younger. And Chris also says, horror doesn't necessarily equal scary. I know what I'm getting with a love story, drama, war, etc. Horror is unknown territory. And I agree with that. That's a great sentiment, Chris.
I slightly disagree with that.
Well, you're slightly wrong.
I don't always know what I'm getting when I go into war.
Well, you never know what you're getting with the horrors of war, but you definitely know you're getting violence. You're getting possible death of you or somebody that you care about, your brother in arms. So there are things that you are getting.
Same thing for a drama. And case in point, My Girl with Macaulay Culkin and whatever her name was. I can never remember her name.
Anna Chomsky.
Yes.
Steve, I you too, but I know you know it. Yeah, Anna Chomsky, man. I had a crush on her.
And that movie was heartbreaking for me. And from the trailer, from watching the movie,
where's glasses? He needs his glasses.
No one ever saw that coming. And that's what I mean by, like,
you know who saw that coming when as soon as they showed that beehive? I did. Because we knew he was allergic. The kid shouldn't have been out there looking for what was her mood ring?
Yes. But
little girl lost that mood
ring. And that's what I say about a good movie. In good movies, you don't see it coming. You don't know where the plot twist is coming from. And I don't know if you saw the Rambo 6.
I don't necessarily agree with that, sir. I don't necessarily agree that you have to have a plot twist.
True, you do not.
Look, one of the best examples, in my opinion, was Unbreakable. I kind of knew how Unbreakable was going. I knew he was the complete opposite of our main character, our main hero. So I'm saying this guy is going to be the supervillain. He's going to be the one that caused it all. I didn't know exactly how. I didn't know the exact motive, but I knew he would be the supervillain.
I saw that one coming.
Yeah, but
in that one, there was no twist. That's M. Night Shyamalan.
It was meant to be a twist. Just because we saw it coming doesn't mean it wasn't meant to be a twist. True. And if you pick apart a twist or you understand it beforehand, does it take away from how good that movie is?
No, absolutely not. So in similar fashion, when they did Glass, a lot of people didn't like the twist for Glass. That was how they wanted to reveal. I don't want to use superheroes, but meta-humans to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they did that in the end. That like all your main characters, the ones that drew you in the first place, were gone, and now it is up to a new breed of people to actually share all the horrors of the world. That was a good turn in the movie that I needed.
But it's fine. Like, again, it's her. You always have to have change. I was explaining this earlier, like, because I was helping my 8-year-old who he had to read a story and then he had to answer questions about it. And one of them was, I was like, I didn't read the story. I was like, how did it change? You know what the conflict is. How did the characters change throughout the story? And he goes, they don't. And I'm like, all right, did you read the story? And he goes, yeah. I was like, how did they change then? What were they before, and what did they get to? It could have been, just solving the problem or anything else, but they changed in some way. And then we went back and reread the story because he kept swearing to me that there's no change. And then I wound up showing him what the change was. Yeah, through the pages of the book. I'm like, this is how this works. So my thing is, you always have to have character development, character change, or you can have a bad story. It's just how that is. But that's a writing thing. I'm not going to take that out on horror movies because there are a lot of bad horror movies. But my feelings on this are, there are horror movies where I can have expected outcomes and they can still be good movies. They can still be fun. When I go see a Friday the 13th movie, I am not expecting the gates of hell to open up and, Cthulhu comes out and then it's Jason battling Cthulhu for the rest of the movie. That would be
you wouldn't
weird.
be surprised.
No, I would be. I'd be very surprised by it. Because when I go and see Jason, I want him killing in Crystal Lake or just for the comfort of it on a boat or in space or as a possessing different human beings as they eat his heart or, so like there's many things. There's many things like I'm willing to accept because it lives within the realm of what that franchise has built. Freddy Krueger, you cannot go to sleep. They set the principles, they set the rules for it. It's the same with vampires, stuff like that. People don't like Twilight because they changed the vampires. They made something dark about these loving creatures that we adore in movies and said, we're going to add sparkles to them. And if you notice,
was Sparkles the only bad thing about them, though?
Oh no, there's lots of bad things about those movies.
Okay,
I'm not saying that, but the sparkling. I'm talking about the change of the creature. Everything else was pretty spot on with what a vampire is. It's just that now they don't die by sunlight; they sparkle in sunlight, and we should fear them because of that. Like it was stupid. It was the melodramatic added in there that really makes it stupid. Yes. But I will say this. We need vampires to be a dark force is what it comes down to. Like you can't take away. Okay, Steve has a very good point. People don't like Twilight because the performances suck ass.
I agree with that part.
Yes, I agree with that. That's why, more so, that's why people don't like Twilight. But they also hate Twilight for changing the lore of vampires. They didn't need to do that. And, because they took the horror out of it.
Yes.
And they made it pretty. And they made it like, oh, we should be loving these bloodsuckers of the night because they're innocent people who care.
Where in complete contrast, and I love this movie because it actually was terrifying, was 30 Days of Night with Josh Hartnett.
Yes.
I really don't care what you say. Like a whole town engulfed in vampires and darkness where you can't leave the small confined space that you hid yourself in because something is going to rip your head or face off. That is terrifying to me. And that was the type of horror movie I was hoping for. And
it was so
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I was going to say it was so in your face, and that's what I loved about it. And the fact that, you're right. Like the whole town is encompassed in darkness for 30 days. And it's not like, some people start disappearing the first 5 or 10 days. Right out of the gate, the vampires are like, we're here. We have 30 days to do this, and we're going to do it.
We're going to do it.
There's no plan that you can have. And you're right. That's the in-your-face type of horror that I really enjoyed. And Chris brings up a good point. 30 Days of Night was a comic book.
Okay. Okay, maybe I'm wrong about Constantine.
Yeah, but you know what? To bring up that point, and Steve is 100% right. 30 Days a Night does rule very hard. It is an awesome movie. Josh Hartnett is great in it. Everybody is. Ben Foster is really good in it too. Okay, so we have to go back to the comic book thing. You did say, and it's already been disproven, but I'm going to throw it in your face a little bit more. You did say that movies that come from comic books, horror movies that come from comic books, can't be scary because they come from comic books, in a way. But what about horror movies that have been made in the comic books and are still coming out as horror movies? Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. Everything has been made in the comic books, really.
True. Like,
you have been proven wrong, sir.
It expands the lore, but it's different when your main character is the force fighting evil, and they don't really get rattled. So although I remember the Friday the 13th comic book focused on Jason just killing people, and it gave the artist a lot more. Let's be honest about what the comic book industry can do as a whole, because what comic books can do that most films cannot is that they can get away with a lot more stylized violence.
Well, yeah, but
hacking, slashing, and limbs just being hacked off, and your mind puts it together. I was reading a comic book earlier today where one of the characters literally just hacks off somebody's arm, throws it out of the window for the police to find because that's what he did, and it was a funny joke to him. And I'm like, you could never do that on live action film and have it have the same impact.
Now I'm going to disprove you one more time.
I'm all open.
Lovecraft story. Lovecraft Country. Lovecraft Country has handled everything perfectly, and if anything, has been scarier than the graphic novel.
I will admit that. I will admit that.
Chris says, Aliens, Predators, Hellraiser, The Thing, all had great comic books, movies after the movies, made after the movies.
Yes! But they, like, name a predecessor. Okay, Lovecraft Country notwithstanding.
No, that counts.
Name another comic or a comic book that had a great movie adaptation.
Well, are we just talking horror? Because we're sticking with horror right now, right?
For this conversation, just horror.
Okay, because I was going to say, as much as I love Infinity Gauntlet, the graphic novel, the movies were better. The movies told a better story. So, and because it was oversimplified because it was a comic book, and I get that. And the movies had 25 years to adapt it. So, Chris says The Crow.
As a horror movie?
Yeah, I would classify that as a horror thriller with action.
I'd put that in the action genre. I don't know about that as a horror movie. Again, we may have to go back and define what a horror movie is supposed to do.
Listen, there are, just like action movies, there's subgenres to every horror movies, and I would definitely put that in the horror thriller category, or even horror action.
I give you thriller action. I don't know about horror action.
All right, well, we'll let that one go for now because we could be arguing on that one all day. And
but that is a great movie.
That needs to be.
And I like that movie a lot.
All right,
I like that one a lot.
So let's.
So let me do this then. We can go through some of the ones that I watched this month.
Yeah.
That I liked and what made them scary to me or interesting to me. So I was watching this movie called Hush, right? Similar to a lot of the thrillers that are
good movie.
But for the people who haven't, it's a killer stalks a woman in the woods, known horror trope. It's common. But what made it so interesting is the fact that it never deviated from what would actually happen in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching Panic Room with I don't know if it was Panic Room with Gabrielle Union, the one with Gabrielle Union that just came out where her kids are stuck in the house. And
it's not Panic Room. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember what the name of it was. I should add though that Hush is a pretty good movie, and in the woman, the woman in it is playing a deaf woman. So it's this guy stalking her in her house in the woods, and she's deaf.
Yes, so she can't hear him walk up on her at all, which as a theme, how close he got to her in certain scenes made me really tense. I was like, is she about to bite it? Right? Okay, no. And it was a cat and mouse game based on your senses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would you do if you couldn't hear and somebody walked up behind you? You have no frame of reference to what else to do. And that's what made that movie so scary for me. It wasn't scary, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
And I figured out what it was in terms of the sound for it. And the sound is what really scared me in that movie. Man, okay.
That's a fact. I mean, he rose from the dead. And Chris puts it, I don't know why I never think of this stuff. I'm just not that smart. That's why I have great people watching. And they can tell me what to say. He does rise from the dead. I mean, that's a very horror element.
Okay.
And he does handle it pretty horrifically.
Okay. Good. Okay. I'll give you a comic book movie. But so I was thinking about that one, and then the other one that came to mind was As Above and So Below.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, and I will admit on camera, that actually scared me a lot. And what scared me about it was the fact that I had no idea which way they were going to go. It did not seem that there was going to be a survivor in that movie. Because going down to get up does not make sense. And that's what made that so interesting, because the deeper they went, the more terrifying it became for them rather than anybody else watching the movie. And the one jump scare in that movie resulted in one of the main characters dying. That's not really a spoiler. I hope not. Don't shoot me. For anybody who hasn't seen it, there is one jump scare that results in a death. And that alone sucked me in so much more than anything else in the movie. Because usually when you have, I remember this one vividly. When me and my wife first got together, we went to go see The Strangers, about the married couple in the woods, and 3 people come to the house, and then randomly, for no reason, they just had the killers show up in random shots out of the shadows and then slowly fade back into the shadows. And I was like, was that to scare me or them? Because that had no effect on them. They didn't know you were there. There's no tension for them. They're already scared that you're going to kill them, but to know that you're this close is so much more terrifying. But you have all your senses.
I get that, but it is terrifying for the viewer, because for the viewer, you're supposed to be this element of the story that wants to tell them, like, he's right behind you, like, because could you imagine being in that situation and they're just messing with you? They're just popping up in the shadows. Maybe you'll see them in a peripheral. Maybe you won't. Who knows? You're looking around for them, and there they are, deep in the, deep in the hallway, kind of lurking, and you don't have any clue that they're there. It is a scary effect. It does land. Now I get it. I get that for you need more terror in your because we're going a little long here, and I have to tell you you're wrong. No, I can't tell you you're wrong. It's a matter of perception of what you like. For you, I get the fear being the characters being in this situation that is just too terrifying. And they are, and it's kind of exhausting them to a point. Like they're just going through the motions. Yeah, in a movie like The Strangers, yeah, they're terrified, they're scared, but nothing's happening to them. They don't know where they are. So there is a lull, and I get that. For me, that lull is scarier. It's the old question. Say you're looking out a window on a stormy night. You see a house across the way. There's a light on in a window. There's a girl standing there. Flash of lightning. There's somebody standing behind her. Flash of lightning. She's dead. He killed her. Flash of lightning. He sees you. He's looking right at you. Flash of lightning. He's gone. Is that scarier, or is you're in a corner and somebody's charging at you with a knife? Which one is scarier? What comes to mind? Do you knowing where they are or not knowing where they are? Knowing where they are isn't scarier, in my opinion. It may be a force that's going to be hard to fight, but if I know where they are, either I can fight, I can run, I have options. I can figure something out. Even one option could be is lay down and die. Some people are just like that, and they can accept that. But not knowing where they are and knowing that they know where you are is pretty scary.
I see your point. And I think for me, the issue with that is that I am a martial artist and a survivalist by mentality, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing where somebody is and seeing them come at me makes me more afraid than not seeing them at all. Because my mind is naturally in survival mode. If I don't see you, there's no danger to me until there's danger to me. Does that make sense? Like,
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, too, if you can't see the danger coming, but you know it's out there. And yes, you may be a martial artist, but what if it's an element, what if it's a supernatural element?
Then it's more terrifying to me that I cannot beat this thing. For me. Mm-hmm. For me. And I get it's more terrifying that I can't win other than you snuck up on me.
So then watch movies like that. And you do, because you watch Rec and you watch other movies like that. And those are the movies that speak to you. And I get that. And I'm not saying that you're any which way is right or wrong. It really comes down to what everybody's taste is. But I don't think that necessarily all horror movies have to scare you to be good. Which is ultimately the argument we were having, is that they have to scare you to be good. I don't think that if they have good characters that have character development and tell a good story and add a spook factor to you, all right, perfect example. Well, real quick, let me go through because Steve brings up a good point. I have not heard about this new movie from the director. Is really effective. The Dark and the Wicked comes out in a few weeks from the director of The Strangers, Brian Bertino. I am definitely anxious to see that. That sounds amazing. Because I really like The Strangers and I loved what he did with it. And that was like a personal story for him. Hardware and Blade also comes to mind. I love comics as much as horror movies. I think we're all there right with you, Chris. But Chris, you were bringing up some good points tonight. And everybody is. You're all bringing up some great points. And, I appreciate that. My thing to you, Jarrod, is things that may not scare you can still be a source of enjoyment, correct? So, like,
true.
Do you like Halloween movies? Now, I'm not saying scary movies.
Absolutely. Again, Halloween is my favorite holiday.
But what are some of your favorite Halloween movies?
So my favorite Halloween movies, and the first one that always comes to mind is Ernest Scared Stupid.
Exactly. Okay. Good one.
Ernest Scared Stupid is and I remember, I think I watched this one as a kid also. And I think right before the goblin troll, whatever thing, eats somebody, he turns them into sludge. Or was that trolls? That was trolls.
I think that was trolls. That was Nilbog. Trolls 2.
Yeah. Trolls.
Wasn't even a troll, man. Wasn't even a troll. It was a goblin.
But I like Ernest Scared Stupid. I make it a habit to watch this one every Halloween and every Christmas, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay, good choice. Mary is going to see that on Friday with our local groups. Psycho Cinema. She's taking time to see it on the big screen. I would love to go too, but I have to watch the little one. It's playing at the Alamo Draft House here in Winchester. So anybody who's watching, go check it out. Go buy tickets, because that is a rare movie that doesn't show back up in theaters often because of Disney. And the Alamo has it, and the Alamo is doing safe things right now with in terms of all the COVID. Like every time I go there, I feel very safe. Anyway, but please go ahead.
The other one, because I was actually mad at you last week. I don't know if it was last week or if it was the week before last. May have been the week before last when you went to go see Hocus Pocus.
Also,
I was like, I wanted to go see that. I haven't seen that in ages, but I love Hocus Pocus. Those are my favorites.
All right, before we go on, though, I want to ask you this. What is the best part about those movies? And I'm going to just give you an example, and I want to see if you agree. Is it more the atmosphere of how Halloween is celebrated?
Or?
That's it. That's so. Yes. Most people love movies like that, Halloween movies like that, just like they love Christmas movies like that, because the atmosphere it's joyful. You have Halloween everywhere. You're surrounded. This town is in on it, and they go for it. And it's not scary, but there's creepiness factor, and it's a beautiful way of doing things. And now my point with that is, horror movies, all you have to do is adopt the atmosphere. Don't look at it as Halloween. I'm now detaching those two. I was using Halloween as an example.
Mm-hmm.
You get into a horror movie. If you want to watch a movie like a Cabin in the Woods movie, like Evil Dead or The Cabin in the Woods, or you want to watch Friday the 13th, something like that, be ready for the atmosphere. And I'm not saying you're going to come out scared. I'm not saying it's going to scare you, but I'm saying it's going to give you that more enjoyment, because now you're ready for the atmosphere of it all. It's comforting, to say the least. Oh, and I bet Nightmare on Elm Street is selling like crazy, Steve. I guarantee you, yeah. Chris says, I want you to think about that. That's why I gave that to you. I started doing comments because I want to know what you think. I would like to hear which 17 movies you watched recently. Maybe we can give suggestions. Oh, trust me. I'm more than happy to have him do that, but we were given a lot of suggestions. Do you guys think, this from Mike Courtney, do you guys think that the horror genre is limited to your typical movie show format? Have you guys heard of analog horror or ARGs? A lot of those play out on YouTube and social media or Reddit. Well, ARGs, what's ARGs? I'm at a loss.
I have not heard of ARGs.
Alternate reality game? I'm guessing that's what he meant. I don't know. Like, for me, all right, so I don't think the horror genre is limited to the format. The horror genre, a perfect example right now is that movie The Host or whatever, which was all done over COVID, all done over Zoom. It adapted with the time. I think you can adapt horror movies with the times. Absolutely, I think you can adapt them like games. Horror games tell some of the best horror stories that are out there. So I don't think horror movies have to be limited to a certain show format or how they do things. But I definitely think that it's more sought after to see a classical type of horror movie than it is something that's that different. That doesn't mean that they won't be popular. It just means that you're not going to get a lot of them. You're going to get a lot more movies that are easier to make.
To Mike's point, though, I want to ask you this one because I feel that horror movies do much better on the small screen than the big screen. Do you feel that horror movies are better for theaters or at home?
I think there's room for both. I think that I'm a theater guy. I like seeing horror movies in the theater. There's certain movies I don't care to go see in the theater. Well, I don't care if I miss it, I should say. I will still go see it, but I don't necessarily have to. Like, I don't necessarily have to see a comedy in the theater. Doesn't mean I won't go see it if I want to laugh and I want to go to the theater. Or the same with drama. Horror movies are different. Like, I like the atmosphere. I think the theater is a good, dark, the sound is excellent. You're, especially like classic horror, like you're kind of surrounded by other fans and you feel it, you know?
Yeah.
Or even new horror, you're surrounded by people who are just as unknowing of what's going to happen as you. So there's an atmosphere there that I really enjoy for it. But I also love watching at home. I do enjoy it. I love the idea of putting on a horror movie while I edit or while I'm doing the dishes or whatever, or even if I'm just cleaning up around the house, or I just want to sit down and watch a horror movie.
I think I have to change my opinion of how I watch horror movies.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you go in for the experience of a story rather than to be scared. So I'm always trying to watch horror movies by myself, alone, where there's no ambiance behind me, so that I feel all the emotion of the characters. Whereas I think that's what takes me out of it, because I'm looking to be scared in that particular situation, and I'm looking for my ways out within the scene. And I think I have to change my opinion on how I approach horror movies. And that's what this whole challenge has been about.
Exactly, but I think if you go forward, and Chris, I promise you, we will get to the 17 movies, and we will. I mean, if you have any recommendations now, please, because we are coming to the end. I want to hear what you guys have to say for Jarrod, or even me. I might want to do a rewatch, or if I haven't seen it, definitely watch it. Thank you to Steve for the new movie that's coming out, The Dark and the Wicked. So I'm going to check that out in theaters. So for me, I think if you go forward, you need to watch. First of all, I think now you should mix it up. I think you should watch 80s, 90s, 2000s, everything.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think you should start looking at it from a source of comfort. I remember when we were talking about it and you were watching so much death in horror movies back to back to back to back all the time. It was getting to you. And I don't blame you. And I know Mary was talking, she goes, I'm worried about them because that happens to me too. And I was like, yeah, I just laugh at them. But because it's a source of comfort. Because when I watch it, I'm like, this isn't real. It's not actually happening. And these people are putting themselves in really stupid positions because you don't do this. And so, like, I play with it a lot more. And I think if you go in that, and sometimes you have to, if you watch some hard horror movies, you got to break it up with some easy horror movies.
Yes.
You can't just go hard all the time.
Yes, and that's been my break for like the past week or so, because I put so much death imagery in my head it started affecting me.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, just look at it from a comfort standpoint. Don't try to be scared. Just try to enjoy it. Just get lost in it, like you would any other movie. Like, you don't watch a comedy expecting to laugh. You watch a comedy to see if it will make you laugh.
Yes. Okay.
So watch a horror movie to see if it scares you. But if not, see what you enjoy about it. You know? Did you like when Jason starts bashing a girl in a sleeping bag against a tree?
I cackled.
Exactly. See?
I cackled from the best part of my soul. I laughed. And I remember being in theaters when I did it. Like, I felt so bad for everybody else because I feel like, what is wrong with you? It's like, that's hilarious. He is beating the girl with the other girl in the sleeping bag.
It's so, like, so all that stuff is, you just have to feel with any movie, you have to feel comfortable with it. Like, by the end, you still have to feel comfortable. And even if you feel uncomfortable, that can be okay sometimes too. Movies making you feel uncomfortable, making you think, are really good too. But it made you feel something.
One of the ones that really kind of made my stomach turn, but didn't really turn me off, was Irreversible.
Yeah.
The opening 100%. Scene of Irreversible was like, I need y'all to stop. Now,
it's funny. I want to hold off on this real quick because we're going to have a very good conversation about this. But we're backing up on comments here. I just want to make sure everybody gets heard. Mike Courtney says, it is hard for me to watch a movie at home over the theater. I get it. I 100% get it. The theater is my preferred viewing choice. But if I'm home, then I'm always watching a movie generally. I'm either watching a movie or I'm binging some show either that I love and I've seen before. Like right now I'm doing Deep Space Nine again. You know, after Star Trek week, I'm rewatching it. And then it's gonna be Bly Manor. So like I'll binge watch a show or I'm watching probably a horror movie. It doesn't have to be, but probably. So I get it, but I would prefer the theater over, especially because I live so close to a really nice theater. You know, but I get that, Mike, definitely. Any movie, not limited to genre, really. That too. Like I said, I don't necessarily go out of my way to go to the theater for comedies. Dramas I do because I think there's a good setting for dramas. But that doesn't mean I don't go see comedies in the theater. If a comedy's up and a horror movie's up or a good drama is up or something, I'm probably not going to go see the comedy. I can say I'll go see that at home. But I definitely want to see one of these in the theater. You know, that's sort of what I meant when I was like, okay, we can go back and forth. Chris says, I liked the driving the best. Driving is great. The driving will never die. Joe Bob, baby. But like he also says, sometimes you need a hard top to keep the rain out. And that's what movie theaters do for me. And I do need that theater experience. I need it. It's taps into the vein, man.
That has been my one regret this year, that I haven't been to the movie theater since February, and that was to see Sonic the Hedgehog with my kids.
Kids movies I will definitely go see, especially, all right, so that sounds really weird. So especially now that I have kids. No. I used to do this thing where I would go to a movie theater just anytime, like when I felt like going. And I would see whatever was playing next. I don't care what it was, what genre, whatever. If it was the next movie playing, I'd go see it. And sometimes there were kids' movies. And I always had a lot of fun. One example being the new Ninja Turtles movies that came out years ago. Now, the first one came out, the opening day was the day Robin Williams died. The reason I remember that is I went to go see it. It was the very next movie playing. And I sat there and I was like, I can't believe I'm watching Ninja Turtles. By my own rule, I got to go for it. So I sit there, and then a mom with four kids, like I guess it was, you know, not her kids. One was her kid, and then it was his three friends, came to see it. And they were talking, and it wasn't bothering me because they're kids being kids. I didn't care. And I wasn't exactly invested in Ninja Turtles. But everything they said reminded me of when Ninja Turtles was on when I was a kid. And then when that movie ended, and they were all into it. Oh, I want to be Leonardo. I want to be Michelangelo. I'm Raphael. And let's go play. I'm like, that's what it's for. That's what it's for. So when movie snobs, scene snob included, start bitching and moaning about why movies like this shouldn't exist or that or this, blah, 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 it ain't for you. There is a kid smiling, and it's inspiring to him or her or whoever else, and that's who it's for. So shut up. It has a place. And theaters bring that out, I think, more than seeing it at home. Like if those kids were seeing it at home, yeah, maybe they'd be excited, but there's so much to distract you from a movie at home. When you're in a theater, you're in it.
Yes.
Now, I will not say that did not have the same effect for the movie Cats, but whatever. Yeah, I know. And we got Steve saying, "Damn you, Mick Manhattan! Come on, I love theaters. You know what? I go to yours all the time. Our popcorn is way better than your crappy microwave mess. It 100% is. I worked in a movie theater for quite a few years, and let me tell you something. I made the popcorn for a long time. Even when I was a manager, I said, I'm making the popcorn because I do it good. Right amount of butter, right amount of salt, you're good to go.
I hate popcorn to this day because I worked in a movie theater.
See, we had different experiences there. There's a lot of things I hate about theaters that have nothing to do with the movies in general. But that's why whenever I'm like, if I'm at the Alamo, it's like a dining set
Yes.
situation. So you don't take the food out or whatever you have, but I clean it up because I was a floor guy for a while. So I clean those floors. So like I make sure to clean. If I'm at another theater for some reason, all of my garbage comes with me and goes in the garbage because I'm not doing that to somebody else.
Yes.
So like
yes, I remember those days.
But going back real quick, Mike says, that is a really interesting approach to movie viewing. So good. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then bringing us back to our original topic, Steve, I appreciate this. That fire extinguisher scene. Yeah, irreversible. If you haven't watched it, and that's why I wanted to come back and talk to you about. And that's why I wanted to do it here so we can move back around. Yeah, that's a hard scene, and that's the opening scene of the movie.
Yes.
Because anybody who hasn't seen Irreversible, it's a movie
that it's a French film.
It's a great French film, starring Monica Bellucci. Cassavetes is in it, or not Cassavetes. Who is the star of Irreversible?
He's been on a lot of American movies recently.
Oh yeah, he shows up a lot, and actually, Irreversible is one of those ones that kind of pushed him in the forefront because it was such an important movie. Vincent Cassel, that's who it was. Her lover, yes. Vincent Cassel, and her former boyfriend, Albert Dupontel, who plays the boyfriend. So what happens is it starts off at the end and then plays completely backwards. And you put together the story of why in the opening scene he is smashing some dude's face with a fire extinguisher until it's jelly, all the way till the beginning of the movie where you're like, it comes full circle and you're like, oh, yeah. And you have to get to the end to completely understand. And Steve actually brings up a really good comment here that I'm going to elaborate on. I both threw up and cried during the rape scene. Sorry if that is a spoiler. Also, Climax, baby. Yes, Climax is another movie, French movie. He is not saying the word climax. So I'm just putting that out there on audio version of this podcast. So if you don't read the comments. Okay, so we've both seen Irreversible. There's a horrific rape scene in the movie, which is sort of the catalyst to what happens in the beginning of the movie, which is the end of the story. And they showed us this movie in my cinematography class in film school. The reason being is because cinematography is stunning. And the rape scene specifically is why they showed it to us, because in that scene, he wanted to show what the power of a shot. Because now this whole movie reverses backwards for anybody watching. We're not going to give too much away, but there's a rape scene in it. Monica Bellucci is the character who was raped in the movie. Oh, that's right. Yes, I didn't realize they were the same director. So it's Climax, same director, Gaspar Noé. And people check out the movie Climax. It's really good. It's so crazy and out there, but it's really good. So there's a rape scene, and the whole movie is very movement oriented. The camera's always moving, except in the rape scene. Camera is still and set, and you watch this thing for like 8 or 9 minutes. And it's a horrifying thing to watch.
It is visceral.
And yes, in the most basic sense of the word. And but it's important because, like they say, like the color, you are so jarred by the color of it because everything's red. The lighting is red. The walls are red. At the end, you see all the way down the end of the tunnel. And when you're in minute 5 or 6 of this, and you're just saying, "Dear God, please stop the scene. It's too much. It's disturbing." They have a character, or not even a character, just somebody, an extra, walk in at the end of the tunnel, which is very far away. It looks like an ant almost to what's going on. He sees what's happening, and he walks out. And it still goes on for another like 3 or 4 minutes. And you're just like, oh my God, nobody's going to help her. Nothing, and it's terrifying in such a crazy way. And they were explaining to us in cinematography class, the reason they do that is because that's you're meant to scream at that person, help her, call somebody, because it needs to be somebody who comes in and then goes out, and it's supposed to give you that reaction of, why can't you help her? I can't help her. I'm stuck here. You know, and it does give you that feeling when you see this.
I see where you're going.
Yeah. So that was like the big reason they showed that to us in class, and it was that was a tough one, man. That was a really tough one that I definitely enjoyed.
So to that point, I'm now curious because I didn't necessarily put Irreversible in the horror movie vein. It was more of a thriller whodunit type of movie. But now, kind of thinking back on it with a new mindset, I would definitely put that into the horror movie genre.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you can really put. I don't know that I put it in the horror movie genre. It's horrific. I would not explain that scene in any other way than horrific. But I don't know that I would put it in the horror movie genre because of the lasting effects that's happened before the scene and everything that you find after. It's, to me, it's more of a dramatic tension.
Well, I say that because of your other point was, you have to take yourself out of watching the movie and understanding that you are now in a position of helplessness to help the person on screen. Mm-hmm. Similar to The Strangers, where I was frustrated at them trying to scare me. Like, he's right behind you, just half a turn or something. Look, help. He's there. Whereas Irreversible, you're watching this and like, I am so uncomfortable. Like, I feel like I need to go call somebody now. Like, this is that type of bad. And that's the new version of how I'm kind of trying to look at horror movies.
I think you should. And really, you just got to keep an open mind with it. You just like, not everything has to be as horrifying as some, like, again, there's some stuff that's just there to comfort you. Halloween is a slow movie, but it's fun. It's a fun movie. Like, it's a simple movie. And I think that horror movies can get away with simple premises as long as you have cool characters. in a weird way, or a cool setting, or all of it. But like, I don't necessarily think that it has to have a most intricate plot line. Now, don't get me wrong, the ones with the most more intricate plot lines are the better ones. But I don't know that it needs it, if that makes sense. Like, there has to be room for the killer clowns from outer space.
Yes.
There has to be room for that stuff. That there has to be room for Child's Play 3 compared to Child's Play 2, or Bride of Chucky, which turned into straight horror comedy. You know?
True.
That you've got to make. You've got to
have the good and the bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not even the bad either, because you can find some good ones that are simple. Friday the 13th is a very simple movie. You know, mom avenging her son.
Which one did you like better, the original or the Rob Zombie remake?
Of Halloween?
Of Friday the 13th.
Rob Zombie didn't do Friday the 13th.
He remade one.
Mark Nespal did that. Halloween was what Rob Zombie remade.
Yeah, I remember he did, but I thought he did the Friday the 13th one also. I could be wrong.
They did that in tune with like Halloween being remade and doing well.
That was the one where Jason ran, and
yeah, I liked
that
one. It was
that was the one that scared me in theaters because I jumped. I remember that.
That was a good adaptation. I thought they did a really good job with it, rebooting it, and then they just went nowhere with it. And I thought they should have.
Oh yeah,
but I'm okay if they go back to the original. You know. And so, okay, so we got Chris saying, I don't know if I can watch that. I Spit on Your Grave disturbed me as a kid. Then Irreversible will definitely disturb you. And then Steve says, yeah, Chris, Irreversible is when you can't shake. You can't. Once you watch it, it's in your mind forever. But Climax, best trailer ever? Yes, it is. And I do believe that. Climax is a pretty good one. French Horror was on a roll at that point. Did you guys see Inside? I did not see Inside. How was that? No. I will watch it. Don't get me wrong. I just may need a hug afterwards. You absolutely will.
You need a cuddle buddy watching that scene.
And yeah, definitely. I agree. That goes back to the isolating helplessness thing. Yep. And it all comes around full circle. Like The Thing is my favorite horror movie of all time. Am I scared of it? No. Am I scared of the concept of it? Yes. Not knowing who you can trust in a situation where you can't get out of it. You know, you'll die if you leave it. And, you know, I like that. I like that idea. I hate the idea of being trapped, so it scares me. So I will watch things that are trapping in a way. You know, but overall, let's go over the 17 movies you did watch, and then we'll kind of end there.
So here we go. Top to bottom. And I'll include the ones that I'd already seen. Some of them I rewatched because I included them also. In Tall Grass, Sinister, The Girl with All the Gifts, The Green Inferno, The Guest, Would You Rather, As Above, So Below, Hush, Oculus, Insidious, Escape Room, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I like that one. I liked it more than I thought I would. The Green Room, My Soul to Take, The Babadook, Happy Death Day 1 and 2, The Shed, Terrifier, Terrified, Ready or Not, and Red State. Apparently, I watched more than 17.
I thought you did because you had a lot of videos come out about it. And I will say this, like a lot of those movies that you mentioned aren't meant to scare you. Happy Death Day is not meant to scare you. And that's okay too. I think that has a place in horror. It's a movie that's supposed. I think I would classify that more as a horror comedy.
Yes, I will completely agree with that one.
And horror comedy definitely has a place in the movie world.
Although for Happy Death Day, I will say that I think they should have chose a better main character.
Oh, really? I like Jessica Rabbit.
Not an actress, better character. Like, I felt that she kind of had it coming.
Yeah, but she changes by the end. She's not the same person she was. That's why I liked it. That actually had a good character arc in it.
It had a good character arc. I will admit that one. It did.
like in the beginning, yeah, you're like, good, this girl's dying, she sucks. But by the end, you're like, oh, she's kind of cool. I mean, she changed it up. You know, she's a lot more down to earth, and she's not like she was. You know who played her roommate?
No.
The one who poisoned her? Matthew Modine's daughter.
Really?
Yeah, that's Matthew Modine's daughter. She's been in a bunch of stuff. She does really good. So she was in Satanic Panic too. Not a sequel. She was just also in Satanic Panic. I should probably make sure to specify that. Yeah, she plays the one who Ruby Modine. That's what her name is. Yeah, she did a good job in that too. I learned that when he was here. He came to visit at the Alamo Drafthouse Winchester. I at this point, I think I'm just going. I have T-shirts of Alamo. I'm just going to start. They're my sponsors now. I don't get paid by them, but I'm just going to say that they are my sponsors. So we got to put the commercial up. Steve says, Inside is amazing. So much blood, but a true total roller coaster. I'm in that. I will check that out after this. Actually, that's a lie. I have to watch House on Sorority Row after this for Behind the Box tomorrow, because we're analyzing that movie. And I have to watch this from the 80s. Never seen it. And Chris says, same here, McManhattan. I always knew who the baddie was, shark, killer, ghost, but the thing was completely new. Yeah, I agree. Like that, if you don't know who it is, it's a scary thing. I also like the things like They Live, where you know all of these terrifying things are out there, and it's like too big to handle, or Invasion of the Body Snatchers, things like that. It's like,
yes,
you're trying to fight your way out, and they've already won in a way, and it's like that's pretty terrifying to me.
How do you win in the unwinnable situation that you've already lost?
There's the best way to answer that question, Jarrod, and the best way to kind of end on that note is you hire Jean-Claude Van Damme to come in and just kick ass.
And chew bubble gum?
As much as you're a martial artist, I'm going with Jean-Claude Van Damme. And you know you're coming back on the show, and we're going to do a total analysis of Welcome to Sudden Death.
Yes.
Which is not a remake, it is a sequel. Look on IMDb.
I saw that after I watched it. I was like, I don't understand how, but you said so. They said so, and I was like, okay. I don't understand, but
wait till my written review comes out, because I am in. First of all, I'll watch any Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Absolutely.
They're amazing. But Michael Jai White, there is no movie where Michael Jai White is throwing kicks that I won't watch. Yeah. Oh, I know. I know you love him. I'm just saying, when I saw Welcome to Sudden Death on Netflix, I was like, yes. I want to watch a marathon of Bone, Never Back Down 2. I even said it in my written review. I will watch Never Back Down 2 over and over again because of Michael Jai White. And I was in the first one.
Say what?
I was in the first Never Back Down movie, and I will never watch that again, but I will watch Never Back Down 2 over and over and over again.
You do realize that I will watch that movie religiously again just to find you, right?
Yeah, I'm in the fight scene in the parking lot. I'm in one of the extras.
Okay, going to go. That's on my list again.
All right. Well, with that being said, Jarrod, we're going to come back and we're going to talk martial arts movies. Who knows? Knowing me, you might be back before the end of the month, and it's horror month. But in November, we're going to book it for martial arts movies, and we're going to have that comprehensive conversation of martial arts movies that we need to have. And I want a list from you of things that I should watch
for martial arts movies.
Yeah, I said we go 80s, 90s, straight to video martial arts movies.
Oh, I got you.
I mean, we can do kung fu movies and stuff too, but let's savor it. Let's just savor this moment.
Well, I got you. You 80s, 90s. Okay.
You
okay,
think about that. We'll do it next month. It will be our Friendsgiving gifts for each other.
Yes,
And I will think of some
I
stuff
got
too.
this.
All
I'm
right,
excited.
book it. We're going to do that. And everybody who joined into the conversation tonight, we always have a good time. Thank you for joining in. And, it's just awesome because we get a lot of different perspectives on things. Steve, Chris, Mike, thank you for joining in the comments. It was an amazing time. And everybody else who's watching or listening. Of course, as always, we are live every Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. on the Scene Snobs Podcast Live here on Scene Snobs Facebook and on the YouTube channel. You can listen to the podcast. It will go up later tonight, later every Tuesday night. And you can listen on any platform, any podcast platform as we go. To my very special co-host, guest co-host, who I love having on, Mr. Jarrod Debardlabon. I love it. I'm going to say your name weird like that every time. Because the first time I got it wrong. And now I'll never get it wrong, but I'm going to say it weird. I'm going to make it weird for you.
I think your wife was the third person in history to ever say it correctly of my entire life.
She was probably saying it over and over and over to herself in her head until she said it.
No, the first time she said it, she was one of the first 4 people in my entire life that have ever said my last name correctly first try.
Well, good on you, Mary. That's you definitely nailed it. In fairness to me, I was hosting a show and I was nervous all day that I would mess it up, and I kept saying it right. And then we got to the show, and I got nervous that I was going to mess it up, and I did. So, with that being said, you've been on plenty of times before, since, and I get it right now. So, everybody, make sure you're checking out the shows tomorrow night. We have a very special and cool interview up tonight on Pulling Focus podcast. Brian and I, and you'll love this, Jarrod. We talked to Jack Shoulder, horror movie director extraordinaire. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Alone in the Dark from 1981. The Hidden, which is a great sci-fi movie starring Kyle MacLachlan and Michael Nouri, if you haven't seen it. Tales from the Crypt. He directed probably the scariest episode of all time. Wishmaster 2. Was it by Don's Early Light? So many fun, awesome things. And he gave us a master class on filmmaking in that interview, and it was fantastic. So go check it out now. That's on Pulling Focus Podcast, up on Apple Podcasts, or everything is always up on Apple Podcasts, or you can go to thescenesnobs.com and go to the links and follow it, and then you can listen to it and download it. Tomorrow night, Behind the Box Podcast, hosted by me, Lori, Len, and Rob, and we are talking school-themed horror movies. And I think the movie we're talking about is House on Sorority Row. That's what we're going to analyze at the end of the movie. So watch along, and you can analyze with us, of course. Rob Paints the Movies on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. All new and live. Oh, yeah. Behind the Box is... All right. I need to slow down a little bit. I'm losing my mind. Tomorrow's Behind the Box. It's live at 7:30 p.m. Everything is always on the YouTube and Facebook channel. Rob Paints the Movies is live on 7:30 p.m. on the YouTube or Facebook. We are off this week for the showcase, but we have an interview with Tony Masiello coming out, which is out now. You can go watch it. He runs SOV Horror. It's a horror distribution company for movies that are shot on video that were thought to be lost. It is a great interview, and I learned a lot about distribution. And he's a fantastic guy. Thursday, I have my interview with John Brennan, who is the musical supervisor for the show The Last Drive-In, was on the show. We had a great time talking about his time on The Last Drive-In and as a producer for Trauma Entertainment. His new movie, Shakespeare Shitstorm, is coming out through Trauma. And he also serenaded me with original music. So that was a lot of fun. And tomorrow I am interviewing, and it will be up on Friday, my interview with C.J. Graham, who played Jason Voorhees in Jason Lives, Part 6 of the Friday the 13th movies. So make sure you check that out. And we're going to have some... and my interview with Richard Bergen, who is directing the movie Fang, which comes out in 2 months. And I sat down and talked to him about his brand new movie and the trials and tribulations of getting it made. So it's a lot of fun. Check it out. That'll be out on Saturday. And with that being said, I'm sure I've talked your heads off enough. I haven't even...
breath for you.
Yeah, I just need to let you take over sometimes. You can pull it off. You got a suaveness to you. Me, I'm like soccer style kicker. I'll give you $30 if you know what movie that's from.
I do not.
Soccer style kicker. That was Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. When they put the gun through the door, and he goes to Ray Finkel's house, and they put the gun through the door, and he's like, and they're like, "How do you know? You're not a fan of Ray Finkel?" And he's like, "Tell us about him." And he goes, "Soccer style kicker," and he just talks throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, I remember.
Anyway, now little football. So now I'm rambling. I had a great time. Jarrod's always a fun time to have on the show, talk to. We are going to get together and talk martial arts. Jarrod, anytime you want to come on the show, you're always welcome. You just say the word. And until next time, make sure you're following out the Scene Snobs. Just go to thescenesnobs.com for all the links. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. Everybody have a good night. Thank you for joining in. You guys are fantastic.